In the headlines of this hour on VTV News. 2% VAT reduction expected to stimulate production and consumption. And later on, local authorities, training facilities and enterprises cooperate in semiconductor training. In a world news, Gaza ceasefire deal welcomed by Israel and Fatah.
Broadcasting from Hanoi, the capital of Vietnam. VTV News starts right now.
Good afternoon. It is currently 3 p.m. local time, and you're tuning in to 30 minutes of VTV News. I'm Lin Lei with the latest updates. Now, on Monday morning, the National Assembly continued the 7th session by discussing several articles in the revised draft law on the management and use of weapons, explosives, and supporting tools. Opinions was divided, with some deputies concerned about the context in which knives are to be categorized as offensive weapons. Deputies argued that outside of normal contexts, if a person holds a knife or sharp object in a situation that is presumed not for production, it should be considered an offensive weapon. Deputies also raised concerns about the complicated development of weapons and explosive management. Therefore, clearer regulations should prohibit people from collecting scrap and using military weapons and explosives. The handling and destruction of these dangerous materials should only be assigned to agencies and organizations with the technical conditions and capabilities. The deputies also offered opinions on the regulations for declaring offensive weapons, managing explosive production, and gifting weapons. The government is submitting a policy on tax, fee exemption, and reduction to the National Assembly. One proposal is to reduce the value-added tax rate by 2% in the last 6 months of the year for some groups of goods and services currently subject to a tax rate of 10%. Consumers and the business community welcomed this news. If the proposal is approved, this will be the 4th time the 2% VAT reduction policy has been applied.
Most items in this woman's shopping cart are on the list of goods eligible for a 2% VAT reduction. Although this tax reduction only helps her save a small amount of money on each bill, it is a pleasing thought every time she goes shopping.
Consumers have to pay tax on what they buy, so a 2% reduction is a reduction for us consumers, so I'm very happy.
Businesses participating in market stabilization programs strongly support reducing VAT by 2%. After 3 previous implementations, the policy has benefited the entire supply chain, from input to output.
We will use this 2% reduction to increase the investment budget for the promotion programs. The beneficiaries are consumers. This reduction is an investment in consumers, stimulating demand and increasing spending.
If the 2% reduction of value-added tax is approved, consumers and businesses will save more than $1.8 billion. Experts say this tax reduction and other tax and fee solutions will help businesses reduce production costs, increase profits, and create more jobs, thereby nurturing revenue sources.
When VAT is reduced, the establishment of new businesses or businesses recovering production can compensate for the state budget. In addition, the reduction will increase consumption and support businesses. In many ways, it will contribute back to the state budget.
Experts also say that the second half of the year will be an important time for businesses to accelerate production and achieve their goals. Favorable policies will give businesses more support to reduce input costs, creating room for price reductions and a stimulus program for the year-end shopping season.
In a move to stabilize gold prices, the State Bank of Vietnam has begun selling gold bars to 4 state-owned joint stock commercial banks starting today, June the 3rd, so they can distribute them to retail buyers. These 4 banks are Vietinbank, Vietcombank, Agribank, and BIDV. Accordingly, SJC gold bars have been sold to customers at 2:30 p.m. today and will continue until 9 a.m. tomorrow. Meanwhile, Saigon Jewelry SJC Company will buy and sell gold at locations in the network per branch opening hours. Based on the purchase price of gold bars from the state bank, four state-owned commercial banks and SJC company will determine and announce the selling price of SJC gold bars on the website and at gold selling locations. However, state-owned commercial banks only sell and will not buy SJC gold bars from customers, while SJC company carries out all transactions of buying and selling gold bars. In June, the government will initiate an inspection to combat illegal, unreported, and unregulated fishing, or IUU, in coastal provinces and cities. Despite positive changes, there are still issues with mixing catches and the illegal authentication of landing origin documents. Local authorities are intensifying efforts to address these issues.
Gil's family operates an offshore fishing boat. Keeping a fishing log and declaring catch output is routine. Now she's adapting to an electronic traceability app for declarations.
I'm gradually getting used to it. I declare all the output on the app.
The electronic traceability app enhances the reliability and accuracy of raw material certification records. Fishing boat crews input the fishing date and sea area and output them into their fishing logs. The Fisheries Inspection and Fishing Control Office cross-references both fishing logs with the National Fisheries Database VN-FishBase, facilitating the identification of IUU violations by fishing vessels.
We log daily activities and catch unloading in the fishing log.
Once the boat is deemed qualified, the management board will arrange docking and assign staff for close monitoring. Upon completing this process, the records will be retained at the port. Vessel owners and businesses requiring origin confirmation will then be guided through the subsequent steps.
With over 29,000 fishing vessels measuring 15 meters and above, promoting close collaboration between the fishing fleet, fishing ports, and fisheries inspection and control offices ensures the accuracy of origin records for marine products and prevents illegal landings.
According to a World Bank report, agriculture accounted for about 90% of total national emissions in 2020, making it the second highest emitting sector. Increased greenhouse gas emissions in Vietnam's rice production stem mainly from unsustainable agricultural intensification. A smart rice farming model selling carbon credits is emerging, aiming to reduce emissions and boost rice output.
According to rice purchasers, on average, 1 hectare yields 3 to 4 carbon credits, each selling for $20. Importantly, rice productivity using this method exceeds that of traditional farming while reducing water, pesticide, and fertilizer usage.
The costs are minimal, with fertilizer and pesticide usage kept at moderate levels.
In addition to producing bright yellow rice grains, the yield is at least 10% higher. Consequently, with a typical rice yield of 8 tons, this model can achieve 9 tons, showcasing its efficiency.
To sell carbon credits from rice cultivation, farmers must refrain from burning straw and increase the use of biofertilizers to reduce methane and carbon emissions. Moreover, they must adhere to procedures for reporting and evaluating carbon credits.
Farmers must take pictures and upload them to the app for emissions measurement, requiring them to be proactive. Failure to do so may result in warnings. After 2 warnings, carbon credits will not be counted for that field.
Vietnam's rice production area of around 7 million hectares presents a substantial opportunity for selling carbon credits and enhancing rice value. By adopting smart rice farming and purchasing carbon credits, farmers are incentivized to shift towards a productivity-focused approach, reducing costs.
20,000 tons of Bakzang lychee has been sold domestically and internationally in the markets of China, Japan, and the U.S. Currently, young lychees are being harvested at $1 to $2.75 per kilogram, generating revenue of hundreds of millions of Vietnam dong for growers. Bac Giang province will continue lychee consumption marketing. Many businesses have contracted with growers to purchase and export lychees during the main season. This year, Bắc Giang Province total lychee output is projected to reach 100,000 tons. And before we move on, let's have a look at the exchange rate between the Vietnam dong and some world currencies in today's market. Coming up next on VTV News. Local authorities, training facilities, and enterprises cooperate in semiconductor training. And later on, unemployed workers face difficulties in finding new jobs. Now moving on to other important updates, Vietnam draws significant interest from large semiconductor corporations from countries like the US, South Korea, and Japan. Additionally, many domestic companies are entering the market, leading to high demand for a large skilled labor force. To address this, local authorities, businesses, and training facilities are collaborating to enhance the quality of semiconductor workforce training.
At this training center, students can access the most modern equipment and facilities, with chip simulation accuracy reaching 95%. For example, this server is the only one in Southeast Asia, and it can reduce the simulation process from months to hours.
This is one of the ways the business helps the university enhance the quality of its training programs in a more practical manner.
It's a good way for us to basically bring technology to the university. The semiconductor industry is shifting. So previously there was a lot of focus on hardware. Now it's all towards hardware and software being integrated together in a global supply chain, in a vertical supply chain. The era we're now talking about semiconductors, I call it software-driven semiconductor design.
The collaboration focuses on the most practical training objectives. This allows students to engage with and even participate in the operation of production lines and technologies at leading enterprises in this field. Furthermore, training facilities coordinate with and receive support from local authorities.
The local government supports us by sending lecturers to study and enhance their professional qualifications domestically and abroad. It also offers investment packages and upgrades infrastructure, particularly laboratories.
We support the university in establishing startup and innovation centers and clubs to enhance its training activities.
The cooperation model between local authorities, training facilities, and enterprises is being implemented in several localities such as Hanoi, Hải Phòng, Đà Nẵng, Cần Thơ, and Ho Chi Minh City.
We have established strategic partnerships with Chip4 Alliance partners, providing mutual benefits for the Da Nang government, businesses, and training facilities to address labor force shortages in the semiconductor industry. The Semiconductor Research and Human Resources Training Alliance, VASA, marks an important initial step in advancing human resource training in this field.
According to the Ministry of Planning and Investment, Vietnam will need at least 50,000 semiconductor engineers by 2030. Cooperation between the local government, businesses, and training facilities will help improve the quantity and quality of human resources, contributing to solving the labor shortage in this field.
Amid a difficult labor market, finding a job for young workers is already difficult, and it is even more difficult for workers aged 35 to 40, especially when they find a new job after being laid off. There are training courses for unemployed workers to improve their skills and update their knowledge to adapt to labor market trends. However, only a few people are interested in participating in such courses.
Having worked as a salesman for more than 10 years, this man found himself unemployed at nearly 40. Although he had attended many recruitment fairs, he had yet to be hired.
It is very difficult to find a job now. I'm in quite a difficult situation because I have no income.
Most unemployed workers aged 35 to 40 are in the same situation. To make it easier to find a new job, workers can participate in vocational training classes for people with unemployment insurance, such as this car driving course.
I find it quite difficult to find a job at this age, so I am taking this course to learn a new trade in the hope of finding a new job.
When learning a trade, unemployed workers will receive a maximum support of 4.5 million Vietnamese dong per person per training course if the training period is up to 3 months. If it is more than 3 months, the maximum support level is 1.5 million dong per person per course. However, according to the Hanoi Employment Service Center, not many workers want to continue training.
Many people are advised about vocational training and register for it but do not attend. They just want to get a job right away.
To support workers, I think training institutions should offer short-term training programs to meet the needs of each group of workers.
Although it is difficult to compete in terms of productivity with younger people, workers aged 35 to 40 can still participate in many sectors, especially when they are trained properly. Therefore, post-training support policies such as free consultation, referral, and job provision should be available to help them find jobs easily.
Events have been launched in Vĩnh Thái Beach of Vĩnh Linh District, Quảng Trị Province to celebrate World Environment Day on June the 5th and World Oceans Day on June the 8th, as well as the Vietnam Seas and Islands Week 2024. The effort results from the collaboration between the Provincial People's Committee and the Ministry of Natural Resources and Environment to launch a farmer association movement that will contribute to environmental protection and climate change response for 2024 to 2030. A rally was also held to affirm Quảng Trị Province's determination to raise people's awareness and promote unified actions to expand the forests and coastal mangroves to restore degraded environments. Farmers associations at all levels at the rally also signed a commitment to bring trash produced at sea to shore. Vietnam will investigate and evaluate biodiversity, aquatic resources, and the habitat of aquatic species in Vietnamese waters, including deep sea areas, shallow waters, and underground water areas, under the National Program on Protecting and Developing Aquatic Resources until 2030. The program has set targets for Vietnam to have nearly 500,000 hectares designated for marine conservation of aquatic resources, comprising 27 newly established conservation areas by 2030. The question is how to achieve this ambitious target.
According to the plan, 59 aquatic resource protection zones will be established, 63 areas will be banned from fishing for a limited period of time, and 27 new artificial habitats for aquatic species will be formed. The fisheries sector plans to zone off aquatic resources protection and biodiversity conservation on an area of over 2 million hectares.
The government has policies to support localities in implementing this project. Policies need to be in place to monitor and evaluate the implementation process.
We see the role of associations and social organizations in this plan being emphasized. This is the premise for international organizations to participate in supporting and improving people's livelihoods.
The plan aims to develop the sustainable exploitation of aquatic resources. Accordingly, it aims to reduce the number of fishing vessels to 83,600 units by 2030 and the total number of maritime workers to about 600,000 nationwide. The Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Development will issue more favorable policies for the development of marine aquaculture.
From now until 2030, exploitation will stand at 2.8 million tons. Marine aquaculture will reach 850,000 tons by 2025. This target will be completed this year.
The program also underlines the necessity to support co-management in protecting aquatic resources, enhance coordination mechanisms among authorized agencies to effectively inspect, control, detect, and handle violations of the law on fisheries at sea and coastal areas, and attract international resources and cooperation in sharing experiences, training, and developing high-quality human resources.
To protect local biodiversity, Phie province will set aside 50 hectares to plant different species of trees from mangrove forests at Oluan Lagoon. This effort is believed to help restore the ecosystem in this scenic spot. Up to now, mangrove trees such as Soneraceae, Rhizophora and Nipa palm have covered 17 hectares of land in 3 communes along the lagoon, creating a natural 10-kilometer barrier with minimal human impact. Next year, Phie province will complete the planting of the remaining area. This will create a scenic landscape that will not only improve the local environment and limit the negative impacts of rising sea levels, but also create livelihoods for local people by allowing them to participate in the sustainable management, protection, and development of mangrove forests. The 2024 Ninh Tourism Week, with the theme The Golden Color of Tam Cốc Tràng An, kicked off last weekend. As an annual tourism activity held by the local administration, the event aims to promote and introduce Ninh tourism's unique, attractive, and outstanding values. Our reporter tells us more.
Visitors can admire the cattleman playing the flute depicted on a nearly 10,000 square meter rice field along the Ngo Dong River cruise route. This artwork honors the ancient capital's cultural and religious heritage, symbolizing the farmer's gentleness and hard work. Tam Cốc is also one of Vietnam's 5 most beautiful rice-growing areas.
The scenery here is incredibly charming. On both sides of the river, there are rice fields and mountains. Floating on this beautiful river is a truly wonderful experience.
Visitors can also experience the traditional lifestyle and farming practices of wet rice farmers in the northern delta.
We hope to show our hospitality to visitors from near and far.
The event will last 8 days at the Tam Cốc Big Động Tourism Area, Tràng An Ecological Tourism Site, and several tourist destinations across the province.
Ninh Tourism Week is a key event to boost provincial tourism and highlight the region's cultural beauty. This year, cultural heritage tourism focused on Tam Cốc and Tràng An will be the centerpiece of Ninh Binh tourism initiatives.
The event is also one of the activities to mark the 10th anniversary of the UNESCO recognition of Tràng An landscape complex and hopes to attract about 200,000 visitors.
Coming up next in our world news. Gaza ceasefire deal welcomed by Israel and Fatah. And later on, US, South Korea, and Japan to hold joint military exercises. Now moving on to our world news, Israeli President Isaac Herzog on Sunday announced his support for US President Joe Biden's proposal for a ceasefire deal between Israel and Hamas, aiming to release the hostages. He said that according to Jewish tradition, there is no greater commandment than redeeming captives and hostages. He also stressed Israel's obligation to bring the hostages home within the framework of a deal that preserves national security interests. Meanwhile, the Palestinian National Liberation Movement, or Fatah, on Sunday expressed its hope that the ceasefire deal recently proposed by the United States will end the ongoing conflict.
And sets the stage for a political settlement. Now, I'll be straight with you.
The U.S. Department of Defense on Sunday stated that the U.S., Japan, and South Korea agreed to hold new trilateral joint exercises this summer after a meeting of the 3 allies' defense ministers. The plan involves exercises in the air, surface, underwater, and for the first time, in cyberspace. So far, there have been no such multi-domain exercises between the 3 countries. The 3 also agreed to establish a trilateral security cooperation framework this year in an effort to institutionalize their 3-way defense cooperation. OPEC Plus agreed on Sunday to extend most of its deep oil output cuts well into 2025 as the group seeks to shore up the market amid tepid demand growth. Brent crude oil prices have been trading near $80 per barrel in recent days, below what many OPEC Plus members need to balance their budgets. Worries over slow demand growth in top oil importer China have weighed on prices alongside rising oil stocks in developed economies. OPEC Plus members are currently cutting output by a total of 5.86 million barrels per day, or about 5.7% of global demand. Autonomous drive mapping, a booming emerging vocation in China, has entered the fast lane to keep up with the rapidly growing need for autopilot mode. Now it requires more young people with specific skills to join. Take a look.
Gao Tianlai and Lu Hailong, both employees of Beijing-based autonomous driving technology provider Rhino AI, are working as a duo to collect mapping data for the purpose of autonomous driving mapping, with one driving the car and the other monitoring computer data. The mapping vehicle must not have parallel vehicles on either side and must maintain a distance of about 10 meters from the vehicle in front. The speed is strictly regulated, 30 km per hour on normal roads and 20 km per hour at intersections so as to collect valid map data.
If the vehicle speed is too fast, the radar-scanned ground markers will become blurred, leading to errors in subsequent steps such as mapping and verification.
Gao and Lu have had a passion for cars and travel since childhood. Since becoming mapping technicians in 2020, they have traveled to over 30 cities, covering a distance of over 4,000 kilometers.
I never dreamed that I could become an engineer as I have a low educational background.
According to a Chinese online recruitment services provider, the number of job positions in the autonomous driving industry doubled in 2023 compared to that of 2020. Young generation is the leading force in Chinese auto driving technology companies, and the majority of the research and development staff are people who were born in the 1990s.
And now let's have a look at the weather forecast for Vietnam and other locations in the world. And that is all that we have for this hour on VTV News. To rewatch our program, you can visit our website or YouTube channel or download a mobile app VTVgo for more. Thank you for watching, and goodbye for now.